Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Aoudi, and in this video I will be showing you how to install a Windows operating system on top of your Mac OS. Just to be clear, I will not be installing Windows on the Mac machine itself, but rather as a VM or a virtual machine that you can run on your Mac OS. In other words, I will be using virtualization. If you don't know what a VM is, I recommend you go watch my introduction to virtualization video first and then come back here. Before we start, there is something a bit technical and maybe even boring for some of you, but important nonetheless to discuss. 32-bit versus 64-bit computers. For us users, the main difference is the processing power. So computers with 32-bit processors are older, slower, and even less secure, while a 64-bit processor is newer, faster, and more secure. Other than the processor itself, there will be software, including operating system, that will take advantage of the processing power of 64-bit CPU. These days, you are most likely running 64-bit chips with 64-bit operating system. The second thing I want to discuss are Intel versus ARM-based CPUs. Again, I'm not gonna get into the technicalities, RISC versus CISC-based architectures. I simply want to highlight that Apple introduced the M1 chip in some of its Macs. The M1 chip is an ARM-based chip. For now, while Intel might be the more powerful, ARM is more cost-effective, but it's also mobile friendly. In fact, Apple said that iOS and iPadOS apps will run natively on ARM-based Macs. Why did I mention all of this? Well, because some of you might have Intel while others might have ARM-based Mac. If you have an Intel-based machine, you're in luck. Things are easy. Windows operating systems, virtual disks are abundantly available. However, if you have an ARM-based Mac, things can get a little bit more challenging. In this video, I will focus on ARM-based machines while pointing out what the Intel guys must do. Okay, let's start with some requirements. Number one, you will need a hypervisor, which is simply a virtualization software that allows us to create, manage, and run virtual machines. Number two, we will need a Windows disk image or a pre-installed virtual disk. I will be using Windows 10 in this video. Finally, of course, you will need enough disk space, enough RAM or memory, especially if you plan on running multiple VMs on your Mac. For Intel-based machines, you can download a free personal use license of the Vmware Fusion Player. For ARM-based machines, we will use Parallels Desktop free trial. Here are the steps for VMware Fusion. You will register, activate your account, and then simply download and install. And here are the steps for Parallels Desktop. Registration is not required on the website, but later in the app itself. A quick note, you will not be downloading these applications from the App Store, but rather from the vendor directly. After installing your hypervisor, you will need a disk or a disk image to install from. A quick note on this topic of disk images and virtual packages. Remember disks like a CD or DVD, for example? Well, if you're wondering, we used to insert them into a disk drive and among other things, use them to install software like an operating system. A disk image is basically a software or a digital disk we use to install something. It is simply a file that we can copy and move around between computers. It would typically have an ISO extension, so for example Windows 10.iso. However, there is another way VMs can be made available. Using this method, a VM is pre-installed and then packaged in some sort of a format which is hypervisor dependent. So for instance, VMDK for VMware. An ISO would give you the flexibility to install the operating system the way you want with the configurations that you want, while a package VM is faster simply because the OS is already installed and you're simply importing it or even sometimes just opening a file. Intel guys, here is the next step. You have two options. A pre-installed VMware package from the Microsoft Windows Dev Center or an ISO disk image. It is your choice. Of course, you can download a proper or a regular edition if you already have a license for it. For ARM machine, this is where it gets complicated because it's not easy to get an ARM-based Windows distribution. But not to worry, here is the solution. You will visit the insider.windows.com website, log in, and then register for the Windows Insider program. Among other things, you will be able to download the Windows 10 ARM distribution. Okay, let us recap what we have done so far. So in step 1, we installed the appropriate hypervisor for our machine. So for Intel-based Macs, you should have installed VMware Fusion Player. If you have an ARM-based Mac, you should have installed Parallels Desktop. And this is what I have on my machine. And in step 2, we downloaded the Windows image again that is suitable for our Mac. So on the top, you can see the Intel downloads. And if you remember, you had two choices. One of them is a pre-packaged virtual disk. This is the zip file, which I already expanded. You can see on the top of the screen. But also you can see the second from bottom in the top screenshot. You can see the ISO file, which is win10.iso. Now at the bottom, you will see that for ARM-based Macs, I have only one choice, which is the Windows 10 Insider Preview. Okay, since I have an ARM-based Mac, I'm gonna show you the very easy steps of installing Windows 10 using Parallels Desktop. This is the installation assistant, very intuitive, very easy to use. You will choose the install Windows, and then you will choose the Windows 10 Insider Preview. You don't need to change anything here, just choose productivity, give it a name, and let it create the virtual machine. This is it. I have Windows 10 Insider Preview up and running on my ARM-based iMac. It is very responsive and it has plenty of applications, whatever is available in this distribution of Windows. Just a quick check. I will open Microsoft Edge just to check the internet connection, and it is working. I will search for my YouTube channel, and there it is. This is it for this video. You can find the links for all the tools and the downloads in the description section. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section. If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching.